Hello everyone, welcome back to the undergrads. Today, I, on behalf of the undergrads, would want to wish all of you a very happy Independence Day. Now, as you all know, that we usually come and discuss topics that are legal or contemporary in nature, or topics that are related to policy matters. But today, we'll be discussing the ins and outs of a book that has been written by Mr. Biju Achuthan. Now, Mr. Achuthan is an advocate practicing in Gujarat for the past 15 years in various courts. Currently, he deals with matters that are related to Gujarat High Court, the DRT in Ahmedabad, and NCLT in Ahmedabad. Now, the title of the book is Malabar Rebellion, a Gandhian Oversight in Retrospect. I've also attached the Amazon link for the book in the description below, and I would request all of you to please go read about the book and please buy the book. Now, the theme of the book is very much centered towards the Moplah riots that broke out during the Khilafat Movement. And this year marks the 100th year of that incident, or almost a century. Now, I myself have read quite a few literature or existing literature on this issue, including the writings of Babasaheb Ambedkar and Veer Savarkar. But I believe after reading this book gives a complete justice to the perception of Malabar Rebellion. And the very reason that I say so is that unlike existing literature, this book has not restricted itself to a few chapters that are dedicated to highlight the perception of Malabar Rebellion. Instead, this whole book, or the theme of the book and the flow of the book, is there to determine the factors that eventually led to Malabar Rebellion and what were the consequences post the rebellion. So without any further ado, now let's begin the conversation. Welcome to the channel, Mr. Biju Achuthan. I, on behalf of the undergrads, would like to congratulate you for your new endeavor. And I and Kshitij Kasi Vishwanath, so he's the other co-founder of this channel. So we created this platform so that we can discuss topics that are related or that are social, political and legal in nature. Now, due to the pandemic and the restriction of the movement, he cannot present himself before us, but that's okay. Without taking any further time, now I think I'll begin with the conversation, and once again we welcome you to our channel. So before we delve into the subject matter of the book, I would have a very important question for you. What inspired you to write on this subject, and what is the contemporary relevance of this subject at present? More importantly, how did you spare time from your busy schedule that you have because of your law profession to read, write and research for this book?
Okay, thank you, Yash. Actually, I would answer your last question first. That is, as far as time factor is concerned, as you know, COVID proved a blessing in disguise for many people. In my case also that alone has happened, and for the you must be knowing, in the last 1.5 years we are all working on a virtual platform, even starting from Honorable High Court up to all the courts below, we are all appearing on virtual platform only, and it's a fact that only very urgent matters are being dealt with by the honorable courts. So that gave me some time to work on this particular topic and do a research on that. That is the first part of my answer to your question. Then as far as your first query is concerned, what inspired me? My answer is that actually inspired or inspiration may not be a proper expression for that, because actually to the best of my knowledge, inspiration or inspiring denotes something of course it is regarding a creative pursuit. It denotes something positive or something we are doing happily. Of course, it is a work for which I put all my efforts. But the thing is that actually the best expression would be what prompted me to do this thing. That would be a more apt expression to denote my mentality while starting this book is concerned. Then the thing is that in 2021 is the centenary year of Malabar Rebellion, and to the best of my knowledge and as far as the studies I have conducted, I am not claiming that I have made a thorough research on this subject, or first of all I am not a historian at all. Basically I am a lawyer. Up to +2 I have studied science, and thereafter I have switched over the stream of law. But history, I am having an inherent interest in history, and this is a topic, this is a subject which like many Keralites, this is a topic which haunted them for many years, and the funny thing is that you must have heard about Chauri Chaura incident, you must have heard about wagon tragedy, you must have heard about Jallianwala Bagh, and all those things are adequately described in our historical texts. And the thing is that, of course, there's many of these incidents, like for example, Chauri Chaura and Jallianwala Bagh, are brutal incidents and tragedies which our forefathers faced at the hands of the British. But the thing is that somehow the real picture of Malabar Rebellion found no proper attention or found no proper place in historiography of India's freedom struggle. So that alone prompted me to try for this venture.
Right. Now, so when I observe the title of the book, so you have mentioned Malabar Rebellion, a Gandhian oversight in retrospect. So in your view, was there an oversight on Gandhiji's part? And additionally, if yes, in what context are you referring to that? And more importantly, don't you feel it's slightly incorrect to connect Gandhiji with the rebellion?
You see, as far as the expression oversight is concerned, I had my own limitation as far as finding a title for this book is concerned, because when the great soul is on the other side, I had my own limitation, because I found it very difficult to find a proper word to express what actually had happened on the part of Mahatma Gandhi. I had no courage to describe that Mahatma Gandhi had committed a mistake. So at the end, I found that this would be an apt expression to describe what actually had happened. And as far as second part of your question is concerned, my viewpoint is that actually, yes, there was an oversight on the part of Mahatma Gandhi, and that had why I described it as an oversight, because this was not happened all of a sudden or spasmodic, but the thing is that in spite of lot of advice from his colleagues and other leaders of very high stature, Mahatma went ahead with his convictions, and ultimately this casualty had happened. And the thing is that you must be knowing, within a span of 5-6 years, everything had ended, and Gandhiji was compelled to wound up that program. So that oversight, I think the oversight would be the proper word to describe that.
Right. Since we are on the outer line of the book yet, so while I was reading the book, I think I witnessed this new narration method where you were going into flashbacks, so recapitulating events from present and then connecting it to past. Now generally what happens is then an author begins with a background and then the author reaches to a climax. But you did the exact opposite. Why so?
That question is very interesting, because actually one of my lawyer friends from Delhi, actually he called me and he told, you proved that you could be a very good script writer. But the thing is that actually I adopted that method because of a specific reason. It is not for making it in a particular way or anything like that. Why I have done like that? Because of two reasons. Firstly, the thing is that certain incidents happened in the recent past that had a connection with the inherent reasons for Malabar Rebellion. Second thing, certain incidents which had happened recently that justifies my concept about, or my understanding about this revolt. So if you see the first two chapters of this book, one is regarding Turkey and another one is regarding Armenian Genocide. So that in the first chapter, Turkey, if you see, I am starting with Hagia Sophia incident, then Church of Chora of Holy Savior, and thereafter about the history of Turkey, and then to Khilafat. Then as far as Armenian second chapter is concerned, first I am addressing an incident happened 2 years back. That is actually in the capital of Armenia. People have desecrated the statue of Mahatma Gandhi, and even they tried to demolish it. And actually we could not imagine such a situation, and actually it was a very painful incident for Indians. And but Armenians, they had their own justification to do that, even though it was not acceptable to us. And the reasoning was that actually Mahatma Gandhi did injustice to the cause of Armenians during this period of First World War by supporting Turkey. Right. So that is why I adopted that method. That is going method of chronologically going from present to past.
Right. Since we are on the first two chapters, I think what I witnessed was through your narration that linking Imperialist Turkey and the Armenian Genocide was a very novel character of your narration. Why so?
No, because actually the thing is that delinking Turkey and its imperialist character, you cannot study Malabar Rebellion or even Khilafat. Actually, for what purpose this Khilafat movement had started in India? Even, I should say that actually it was, I don't know whether there was a rational or any justifiable reason for causing this movement, but the reason according to the Khilafatists was that actually the dismemberment of Turkey after First World War, and they had to restore the Turkish Caliphate. Correct. And the thing is that for this cause, when the people, Khilafatists, started their program in India, Mahatma Gandhi embraced that movement under the belief that joining hands with this movement, he can strengthen the Swaraj, the movement for Swaraj. So this is what actually had happened. So delinking Turkey and Turkey's history or Turkey's political developments during that period, we cannot discuss or we cannot do justice to any discussion on Khilafat movement.
Now, I have observed this very often that our understanding with history is slightly confounding. And the very reason I say this is that sometimes we fail to make a distinction between what is migration and what was an invasion. And you have also tried countering this idea through the chapter 4 that you have mentioned in the book, which is on Tipu Sultan. Now I have a twofold question for you. Now when I have read about Tipu Sultan, many historians have written in a very praising way, where they mention that he was a very secular and a very progressive ruler. How do you counter that? And second, how much role do you feel Tipu's rule had on the dynamics of Moplahs and Hindus in Malabar? And how much of it actually had a role to play in the Malabar Rebellion that took place?
Now, Yash, here also you have used two expressions. One is migration and another one is invasion. Right. But actually, in my opinion, both these expressions are inadequate to describe what actually had happened. Right. What actually had happened was an aggression. It is not merely an invasion, that's an aggression. And in the case of, I am not talking about Tipu Sultan alone, and in all types of religious invasions, and especially Islamic invasions, this type of aggressions happened in history. And the thing is that, of course, you told that Tipu is, most of the historians are glorifying he was a very secular ruler and he was a social reformer and all those things. The first thing is that actually when you are labeling a person or a ruler as a secular, giving laurels of secularism or secularist upon him, you should understand more than his motives, you should try to understand his intention, the real intent behind that. You take the case of Malabar, the atrocities committed by Tipu, that no historian is ruling out. They don't have a case that Tipu did not commit these atrocities against Hindus in, don't think that I am talking for Hindus or talking for a movement or anything like that. My approach is very honest. What I have gathered is that actually he had committed many atrocities towards Hindus in Malabar, and the thing is that now the next question is what was his intention behind that, not the motive. Since you are a lawyer, a budding lawyer, you can easily understand what's the difference. Right. And when you label him as a social reformer, you should try to understand what actually compelled him to do that reform. Right. You see in history, there are many incidents in which these bigot rulers behaved like secularists. For example, Muhammad bin Qasim, he was the first Muslim invader in India. His policy was demolishing and destroying and desecrating all Hindu places of worship. But do you know that in Sindh, the famous Sun temple in Multan, he has spared. People will, and the protagonists of secular would, he can label that Muhammad bin Qasim was a secularist ruler because in Sindh he spared this famous temple. Correct. But the reason was different. The reason was that Multan became or developed as a big business center because of this sun temple, because lot of pilgrims coming to that place. And slowly the trade and everything developed there, and that was a big source of revenue for the state, for the crown. So he could not afford to leave out that source of income. So he kept it like that. And if you read Dr. Murray Titus' Indian Islam, it is clearly described in that book what he had done to that temple. Even while allowing the temple to continue there and everything in the same way, he ensured that a piece of cow flesh was hung around the neck of the deity. So this is the way in which it was done. So in this way, all these things are happening. So that particular incident we cannot cite as a reason for the secular credential of Muhammad bin Qasim. And in that way, there are not many incidents are there. For example, in the case of Aurangzeb, who was notorious for his policies against the other religious groups, especially Hindus. He was maintaining lot many revenue officials in his darbar for Hindus, and two of his major commanders were Hindus. And then when we go to the other part of the country, you can see there was always a rift between the Jews and the Romans throughout the history. But at some instances they were accommodating, even the Romans accommodated Jews due to political reasons. They allowed them to worship in their own way, and they have shown gratitude to them also. And if you take the history of 20th century, even Joseph Stalin, who was a communist and who was notorious for his religious policies, anti-religious policies, what he had done is, throughout his career, he was adopting anti-religious policies. But when he realized that during the period of Second World War, then the Hitler's army reached Russia, fast approaching Russia. What he had done, he had went for an appeasement policy towards the Russian church, and he came forward with many appeasement policies. Can you label him as a secularist ruler? No, it is not like that. So, and in the same way, in the case of Tipu Sultan, many of the people or many of the historians cite that he was a secularist or he was very secular because of the reason that he never disturbed the Sri Ranganath Swami temple or Sri Rangam temple, which are nearby his capital. The reason was not like that. Tipu could not have afforded to do something against the Hindus in his kingdom. That was the reason, because Tipu was, during the entire period of his reign, he was battling. One side English with the British, other side with the Marathas, other side with the Nizam, Hyderabad, and constantly he is fighting. Then when he started the Malabar invasion, he had to constantly conduct the warfare in Malabar also. So he could not have allowed a revolt to happen in his kingdom. So throughout he was adopting a policy appeasing or accommodating Hindus in his kingdom. But that policy, had he been secular, definitely he would have adopted the policy here also. Right. So that was not like that. Secondly, if you are telling that he was a social reformer, then why he had not, and the thing is that what was the reason for this social reform? When he invaded Malabar, he faced the fiercest opposition. During all his invasions in Malabar, he faced the fiercest opposition or resistance from the Nair soldiers. Right. So what he had done, he came out with a proclamation saying that in the social ladder, Nairs would be the last, and in that way he has turned the social system upside down. The thing is that was not because he was very much worried about the social system being followed in Kerala. And he came out with some other proclamation saying that they should not follow, of course there was poly-entry system and all those things prevailing in Kerala. You should not do that, all those things. But actually his target was the community or the group of people who were fighting with him and creating trouble for them. It is not that. But you see, he never implemented these reforms in Mysore. Right. And he never implemented these reforms for his religion. Can you cite any example in which he came out with some development program for the upliftment of ladies in Mysore, or of his religion? I am not talking about for a particular religion or anything like that. Right, you cannot see anything like that.
Correct.
And so he was targeting his enemies, and 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 many historians I have pointed out in this book also, especially foreign historians, they have a lot of the clear-cut categorical opinion that Tipu's intention was to maintain his independence.
Okay.
And not to achieve something for the people of Malabar or anything like that.
Right.
So you cannot confer laurels upon him like this.
Right. So what I slightly get out of this is that context is something which is very important when you are analyzing the actions of a historical figure.
Correct.
Second, when we are talking about temples, I don't believe an exception could be a general rule. So
Yes.
just because some temples were left, we are not looking at the context or the intention or motive, as you mentioned,
Yes.
behind what exactly was there and why that was left.
Yes. Simple, because actually if we are very much accommodative to your feelings,
Right.
then definitely I would have maintained all the temples in the same way, treated the temple in the same way. And thirdly, Tipu was what I can say, incorrigibly superstitious. He was very, very superstitious, and so for each and every action, behind each and every policy decision taken by Tipu Sultan, he was consulting the Hindu astrologers, Brahmin priests of Sringeri temple or Sri Ranganath Swami temple. So without that, he never went ahead. So all those things prompted him to adopt an accommodative policy in his kingdom and towards some temples in Kerala. But as far as the general policy is concerned, Tipu's general policy is concerned, in my book I am mentioning about, for example, the most visible evidence for his policies towards other religions is evident from the account of Hussain Ali Khan Kirmani, who was the contemporary chronicler of Tipu Sultan. He was a part of the Tipu's Darbar. He clearly depicts that Tipu was very much antagonistic towards Hindus of Mysore. Right. So it was not that he was secular.
Correct. Now I think we can move on to the idea of how Khilafat movement took place. And you did mention moments ago that how Gandhiji was advised by many people not to continue. But he still did. Now I was reading Sri H.M. Seervai's book, that is Partition of India, Legend and Reality. And as we all know, that H.M. Seervai was a very eminent jurist and a lawyer. Now he mentioned in his book, as you did some moments ago, that there were many people who were apprehensive about this whole idea of conflating non-cooperation movement with the Khilafat movement. And to my surprise, one of them was also Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And he mentioned, and I quote him, "It was a crime to mix up politics and religion the way Gandhi had done," unquote. So what are your views on this?
No, actually the thing, it was not only H.M. Seervai, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Sir C. Sankaran Nair, and many such, even Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Annie Beasant, all these people, Devendranath Tagore, all these eminent personalities of that period, they were not favoring this move on the part of Mahatma Gandhi. But the problem was, actually the thing was that Mahatma Gandhi came back from South Africa in 1915, and he came to India. He set foot in India with a divine aura, because actually he had done wonderful things in South Africa. We cannot rule out his greatness or this thing, and there would not be a mass leader like him in the entire world. And he is a person who inspired Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, and all those people. The thing is that, but actually what happened is the South African experience created a strong notion in his mind, because in South Africa, what actually he has experimented. For him, every political move was an experiment, just like he gave the title to his autobiography, My Experiments with Truth. For every political move, step was an experiment for Mahatma. So what he experienced in South Africa was, it had two aspects. The thing is that first one, in South Africa, the Indians as a community were facing discrimination on the basis of race, racist discrimination, on the basis of racist discrimination. So they had no other alternative than to unite, irrespective of the caste, community, religion, color, or anything like that. Right. So there it was very easy for Mahatma to bring all the people all Indians under one umbrella and to fight for their rights. So that was there. And the second thing is that actually, if you read B.R. Nanda's work on Pan-Islamism, so that experiment or that experience created a very strong conviction in Mahatma's mind that through this unity he could achieve Swaraj in India, or rather in a different way he nurtured a feeling or a strong belief that without this unity it could not be achieved. So what actually happened is, after setting foot in 1915, for 2-3 years he waited, and when this issue cropped up, that is the issue of Khilafat, then Mahatma Gandhi thought that this is the right time to apply this theory in practice. So as far as this aspect is concerned, it has been severely criticized by many of the eminent nationalists of those years. That period, and using his own expression, Netaji described it as a Himalayan blunder.
Since we are on the topic of unity, so Shri Babasaheb Ambedkar in his book Pakistan or Partition of India also mentioned, and he was very, to be honest, critical about Gandhi's policies on Hindu-Muslim unity. And there he mentioned an incident where the Khilafat movement was going on, and Khilafatists wrote a letter to the Amir of Afghanistan to invade India. Instead of opposing this idea, Gandhi was himself one of the supporters of this idea. And B.R. Ambedkar has quoted Gandhi, and I am quoting him. He wrote, "I would in a sense assist the Amir of Afghanistan if he waged war against the British government. That is to say, I would openly tell my countrymen that it would be a crime to help a government which has lost the confidence of nation to remain in power." Unquote. Now, in view of B.R. Ambedkar, this was something which no sane man would do. But this was his opinion. What are your opinions on the policies of Gandhiji, especially in light of Hindu-Muslim unity?
No, this is what I was telling. Actually, what happened is, you see, when Mahatma Gandhi reached India in 1915, if this was, his concern was, without attaining Hindu-Muslim unity, he could not achieve Swaraj. But actually what Mahatma Gandhi, I am not a historian, so I am not saying that I am competent enough to authentically comment about that, but what I have gathered is that there was adequate ground and adequate reason for him to mobilize the Indian masses against the British rule. Because you see the scenario, after 1857 revolt, and especially in the late 1800s and in the early 1900s, two movements were rapidly growing in India. One is the Swadeshi movement, under the leadership of leaders like Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Gopalakrishna Gokhale, Surendranath Banerjee and all those things. Then the revolutionary movement, that was also going on parallelly, like the movements like Ugandhar, then Dhaka Nishil. So all these movements were there. Basically all these things were there. So there was, and not only that, the situation created after the First World War, the economic recession and the economic problems faced by the people, that was forming a very strong ground for the people of India or the Indian masses to fight against the British. But instead of adopting any such method, Gandhi was so fascinated towards this concept of, yes, there was a noble idea that everybody should be united and work for this thing. But the thing is that actually, and in this book I have also regarding when while discussing about the general character of resurrections in the societies, I am quoting some authorities, I have mentioned about this thing also, that is when the interest of the people, all the people who is fighting for against a particular system, if the interest of all the fighters are not unified, then that would have catastrophic consequence. So, and that too, what you are doing is actually you are mixing up a purely religious issue with the political interest. Right. And what Mahatma Gandhi failed to realize was that Khilafat had no patriotic interest. Right. Its object was totally religious. Whether right or wrong or something like that, that we can discuss later on. But the thing is that whether it had anything to do with India's aspirations for independence, that Mahatma failed to examine. Right. That was the biggest failure on his part.
Right. I think this is one of the reasons that in chapter 7 of your book, you have described Gandhiji's attempt to link the national movement with the Khilafat movement as ride on tiger and fallacious. Like this is one of the reasons that you do that.
Actually, the thing is that definitely that was Mahatma Gandhi's attempt to embrace Khilafat was a ride on tiger. And actually, B.R. Nanda also I used the same expression for using this thing, and this was a Chinese expression, so I have adopted that expression to describe it, that is riding on tiger. The thing is that why I describe it as ride on tiger, because of course the realities were there at that point of time itself, it was there. And you see, before entering into the dangerous or dangerous side of the this issue, that is adopting the Khilafat cause for a political issue, you see, first of all, you should understand whether this Khilafat cause had a rationale behind that. The thing is that actually, you see what is meant by a caliphate. Caliphate was actually, there was a system in the being followed in the Islamic world, and the thing is that when Khilafat movement was started in India in 1919 for the Turkish Sultanate, because at that point of time Ottoman Turkey was was running the caliphate. The thing is that they had no scriptural authority, because Ottoman Turkey was an empire which had grown through invasions, acquisitions, aggressions, and brutal killings. It was not that actually like the traditional caliphate like Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. This Ottoman Turkey also was conferred with the caliphate because of that. It was not like that. After all this traditional caliphs, then many monarchs adopted the title through force, and Ottoman Turkey also, when they became the biggest Islamic empire in the world, they adopted this thing to have control over all this thing. And so, and when they have captured Arabia, then naturally they claimed it, because holy places of Islam came under their control. But the thing is that in the second half of the second decade of 20th century, that is I think 1916 or 1917, because the holy places of Islam like Mecca, Holy Mecca and Holy Medina, they were under the control of Sharif of Mecca. Already in 1916 or 17, Sharif of Mecca captured the control of Mecca and Medina from the hands of Ottoman Turkey. So practically they lost control over that. And not only that, since they had no authority, scriptural authority over for caliphate, and there was no political reason to support them. Then secondly, in 1919, already in Turkey, the Turkish people started their Turkish independence movement against the Turkish Sultanate under the leadership of Mustafa Kemal Pasha. So parallelly, you should understand the paradox. In 1919, when the people of Turkey started a movement against the Turkish Sultanate for achieving a republic, People's Republic. Right. Here in India, a group of people started a movement for restoration of the Sultanate.
So we were doing the exact opposite.
Exact opposite. Right. The political rationale of this thing had never been examined by Mahatma Gandhi. Right. This was a big mistake or oversight. I am using the expression oversight on the part of Mahatma.
Right. You have also mentioned in your book, and you have narrated about Gandhi's predicament at the bad end of his show in chapter 10. Can you explain that? Why?
Actually, when we see this thing, history, it's a painful thing. Right. It was actually, when I was studying for this work, it was really shocking for me also that to come across an account given by, I think, P.C. Bamford. That is, the thing is that Mahatma Gandhi was literally summoned by Islamic ulema. Ulema means the body of various religious schools. He was summoned to Ajmer to explain what. The thing is that why he had withdrawn non-cooperation movement all of a sudden after Chauri Chaura. Right. Because actually after the commencement of this non-cooperation movement and Khilafat, many communal issues erupted, and this was going on, and it was going out of the hands of this International Congress. They realized it. Mahatma Gandhi realized it. Right. And the thing is that actually after Chauri Chaura in 1922, all of a sudden, I think at that point of time he was in Bardoli. He has, when the moment he came to know about this thing, he had withdrawn this movement. This annoyed the ulama. So ulama summoned him to explain, and as per the historical accounts, he had a very bad experience there, and he tried his level best to convince them, and even the ulama even threatened that they would dissociate from the International Congress, and they will give the they will join hands with the Muslim League and go ahead with their program. That caused a lot of worry for Mahatma Gandhi. Ultimately, somehow he could convince the leaders with the support of some other leaders of Khilafat, and somehow he wriggled out of that problem. But it was a real predicament for him. And the thing is that and most miserable part was that at that point of time, many leaders, actually, including what I can say, the figures like Tagore and all came out with the statements that nobody heard me when I cautioned it. In that way, they have reacted. So it was a real predicament for Mahatma Gandhi. That is, but unfortunately, what happened is, what is quite noticeable was that Mahatma Gandhi withdrew non-cooperation movement in 1922 after Chauri Chowda incident, in which 22 or 23 people died. Right. But in 1921, an incident had happened in which hundreds of people died, and lot many casualties happened, and lot many atrocities were committed. That did not prompt Mahatma to withdraw the non-cooperation movement, or dissociate with from Khilafat. And even regarding the resolutions passed by Congress Working Committee, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar commented that that was a carefully passed resolution without touching the minority sentiments, and that showed that actually somehow proper justice to the.
Yeah. So since you mentioned Congress resolutions and all, so there were many Congress leaders themselves who were not very much okay with the idea of conflating both the ideas. And I think Dr. Annie Besant was one of the major leaders who was against this idea. But the Congress did not pay much attention to her views. Do you feel that they committed a mistake by disregarding her opinions or her apprehension, to be honest, on this issue?
No, I will answer this thing by addressing another issue also, by inviting your attention to another aspect also. Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, while he was in exile, he wrote a book. In that, I think that name was Indian Struggle or something like that, right, in which he gives a narration about that. Actually, he clearly expresses his view that that was a period, that is 1920s was a period, or late 1910s was a period, the years in which there were no leader. There were great leaders in International Congress, right, but there was no leader who had the stature or courage to tell no to Mahatma Gandhi. Okay. Somehow, right. That is what actually had happened. So whenever Mahatma and of course Mahatma himself admitted in many instances that when I could not convince others, right, I would prefer to go alone. Okay. And he, of course, he made a statement, or he observed that actually my mind is always open, allowing the winds of all thoughts to come to my mind and all. Right. But along with that, he has also added that if it is not adequately convincing, I would prefer to go alone. Right. So this mentality is adopted. In the case of Dr. Annie Besant, actually what happened is Dr. Annie Besant's the thing was that after 1915 was the period in which Mahatma Gandhi entered, and parallelly that was a period of starting the twilight of Annie Besant's political career in India. Right. And slowly, due to many reasons, her home rule movement became irrelevant in the Indian political scenario. And of course, ideologically also, Dr. Annie Besant and Mahatma Gandhi was on loggerheads. And Dr. Annie Besant was theoretically a constitutionalist and a supporter of stage by reforms. And even Montagu Chelmsford reforms she had supported when most of the Congress leaders opposed. So the thing was that in Malabar in 1920, the district conference of Congress, when they passed this resolution for starting non-cooperation movement and Khilafat movement and all those things, and linking it with the tenancy movements there, Annie Besant was a person who had a close association with the Malabar. It was not that she was an alien and there. And in many previous annual district conferences of Malabar, of International, she attended there. I think this Panchayati conference was 4th or 5th. In the earlier conference also she was an invitee. Here also she attended. She moved a resolution opposing it and suggested a modification also. But due to some reason, not due to some reason, because of the overwhelming presence of Moplahs.
Right.
That resolution, the amendment moved by Annie Beasant was defeated, and the resolution for going ahead with Khilafat and non-cooperation was passed. But she proved right, and she was of the categorical opinion that if both of them went together, it would result in casualties.
Right. So in your works, you have also heavily relied upon Sir C. Sankaran Nair. Now he was a very eminent jurist and a statesman, and you have also relied upon the book Gandhi and Anarchy. So do you somehow believe that history was thankless to such a great statesman?
Of course. Actually, history was really, not only history, actually his own party men were thankless to him. I doubt whether he is the only Malayali, that is Keralite, who became the president of Indian National Congress in the history. And he was the president of Indian National Congress in Ahmedabad Congress. And he was such an eminent personality that actually he was a great lawyer, he was a great judge, and he was a great reformer. And actually he was a member in many of the committees appointed by the British government, because British government actually realized the potential of this gentleman. And he realized that actually he was a blend of nationalism and British or the Western liberalism and progressive ideologies. So the British government realized the potential of Sir Sankaran Nair, and he was appointed in many committees for reforms of various legislations. So and the thing was that actually the only thing was, he was just like Annie Beasant. Sir Sankaran Nair was also a constitutionalist, and he was also and as far as the aspect of civil disobedience, he was not in tune with Mahatma Gandhi's policies. So always they were at loggerheads, and he was openly and in 1922 and if I remember correctly, that was in 1922, there was a meeting for before the second roundtable conference. At that point of time, I think Muhammad Ali of Ali, that is Ali brothers name Muhammad Ali, he was in jail. At that time also, Mahatma Gandhi was insisting that for release of Muhammad Ali, but Sir Sankaran Nair was totally against that actually, and it was very difficult for convincing such a enlightened mind and that too a well-educated legal mind to convince a reasonable mind to get adapted with the policy of mixing up religion and politics like this. So naturally, and because of this, what I can say, the tussle with Gandhiji, that is my assumption, he was sidelined in Indian politics, and in the as far as Congress politics is concerned. And you might not have heard about his name during your entire academic career, but he was a person who was conferred with knighthood. He was a person who was conferred with not many laurels, but nobody was there to hear his viewpoints.
I think if we move to the final chapter of the book, one could easily recognize that there is an existence of a legal mind as an author for this book. And the reason I say this is because we as lawyers have a very interesting habit of quoting cases or judgments to prove our point, or to prove or to back our facts. Now in the final chapter, you have actually went into detail in order to define or analyze what exactly is a rebellion, and how religious outrage is not always a part of a rebellion. You have also countered many historians or many people who believe that the rebellion that took place in Malabar was actually an economic rebellion which took place by peasants. However, you don't believe the same, and that's the reason that you have also titled the last chapter, and I'll quote it, which is where you believe that the rebellion was neither peasant discontent nor freedom struggle. So could you please elaborate on that idea?
Okay, actually that particular chapter that forms the crux of this entire issue. The debates going on throughout the country or throughout the world or throughout Kerala, this is the crux of all the debates, whether this was a part of peasant discontent or freedom movement, or it was a communal resulted from communal frenzy. Correct. The thing is that we can rebut, because being lawyers, we can rebut because we are having the concept of litmus test to decide legal issues, just like chemistry and the science. You see, by putting one or two questions, counter questions, we can rebut these theories. That is my belief.
Right.
That suppose one viewpoint is that it is a peasant disgust or a peasant discontent. You see, the system of the social system and the landholding system, the land tenure system, and all those things in Malabar, because Tipu's retreat happened in 1892 after the Third Anglo-Mysore War, the defeat of Tipu after 1792. Third Anglo-Mysore War, then 1799 Tipu was killed.
Right.
That means practically after from 1800 till 1921 the system was same. After the British gained the full control of Malabar, they have introduced lot many changes in the system prevailing, which was favorable to Hindus, because accommodating Hindus, actually, because during the Tipu's period, many Hindus were compelled to left their everything in Malabar and went to make an exodus to Travancore. Right. So when the British gained control of Malabar, they came forward and they have recovered their lands. Then ultimately what happened is, when the British got the power, they had to decide what they should do with as far as these rival rights are concerned. Right. They have decided in favor of Hindus, and the laws were introduced in such a way that actually the usurpations made before a particular period was made illegal. Right. So what happened is, that was against the Moplahs. So it was like that. But the thing is that after 1800, so all these legislations came and these policies they have implemented and all those things. Till 1921, this was the policy. Till 1921, during this 120 years, about 50-55 rebellions occurred. Revolts, I am using the expression micro rebellions occurred in Malabar, in the terrains of Malabar. Right. You please note, none of these rebellions got flared up like the 1921 rebellion. Right. Why? That's first question. Because the social system, economic system, the exploitation, the torturing and everything, poverty and everything, that was almost same as far as Moplahs are concerned during this period. Why such a rebellion did not occur? Then after 1921 till 1947, there was no much change in the policies or anything like that. It was the same thing continuing. Why no such rebellion didn't happen after 1921? In spite of all the other circumstances remained the same. Right. So something which was not available before 1921 and after 1921-24 was present for the 1921 rebellion. Right. What was that? That we have to find. Correct. Then second thing, you are telling that freedom movement. Right. Because the same thing, till 1921 the system was there, and after 1921 also, till 1947 India was under the British rule. Right. After 1921, and to be more precise, after 1924. Why I am telling 1924? That was the year in which the Caliphate was abolished by Ottoman Turkey. Right. Actually, the Turkish people, Mustafa Kemal Pasha, abolished the system of Caliphate in 1924. Right. Why there was no such a rebellion after this period? And why? And they were the supporters of this theory, they are always telling that all these rebel leaders like Variyankundatha Kunya Ahmad Haji, Ali Musaliar, and all are freedom fighters. Right. Why the Malabar could not contribute such a leader after this rebellion and before this rebellion? Right. After this rebellion, you see, after 1921 and 20, you see, after 1920s only many of the revolutionaries came forward in India's political history, like Sardar Bhagat Singh, Rajguru, and Chandrasekhar Azad. All those revolutionaries came to the limelight of Indian political scenario during 1920s or 1930s. Did not, why no such leader happened in Malabar right. after this? Right. So from that it can be concluded that there was something unique which was available in Malabar, which prompted the people to rebel at that point of time. Right. And that was the issue of Khilafat. Right. And actually the system prevailing at that point of time, because actually the thing is that quoting Peter Hardy and all, I have written in this book, that is at that point of time, because actually already because of the communal issues prevailing during the period of Tipu Sultan and after that and all, along with the social system and all, there was a rift between Hindus and Muslims in Malabar area. That was an undeniable fact. Right. That we cannot rule out that. That was there. But that was not the issue, because the thing is that Khilafat offered the Moplahs with a dream. They were actually offered with a dream to construct a castle in thin air.
Right.
This is what actually had happened.
Right.
And basically Moplahs were, unfortunately they were illiterate. And it is a reality that they were suffering exploitation also. So when they got a dream, which was sold to be more precise by International Congress and the Khilafat Movement,
right,
then they easily purchased it.
right,
And they thought that with once the, and they were tutored that actually the British government or the British, they were losing power, and we can easily capture this thing. Then so then they are revolted.
right.
And then you ask the question that actually why I have laid upon the judgments and all.
Right.
Those judgments I have laid upon for a specific reason. Normally the thing is that in many of the historical studies, actually the legal documents form a great source of history, for historiography.
Right.
And I have quoted many other examples also, because actually in a lawsuits, all the things, my version may differ from your version,
Right.
but when we are fighting the case, the documents which are producing, accepted by the court and recorded by the court, those documents are reliable documents.
Right.
What those documents say. And if you see the 6 or 7 judgments I have quoted,
Right.
in one case, that is the first day of the rebellion, that is 20th August, one truck driver, and what the protagonist of present discontent theory says, it was a revolt against the landlords.
Right.
But the victim of the 1920 incident was a truck driver and his assistant. The rebels asked him to convert into Islam. They declined. They were killed.
Right.
Then another incident, one 15-year-old boy, he was dragged out of his house and he was asked to convert to Islam. This boy told them that I want to consult to my father. I want to get the consent from my father for that. He was killed. And another incident is that, and the thing is that actually why all these things are governed by religion, why I am telling it is, another incident is that 2 Muslim ladies, which the rebels say that they were leading an immoral life. They were attacked and they were killed. For that also there is a reason given by as per the witnesses' testimony, what was recorded by the court is that the Khilafat Raj is implemented. Now these types of immoral things will not be allowed. Not be allowed.
Right.
So that means their intention is to implement the Khilafat Raj in Malabar.
Absolutely.
So that they had implemented by killing these 2 Muslim ladies.
Right.
And the thing is that in this way there are lot many incidents I have cited, and one girl was actually taken away from house, and one rebel leader claimed that she married her. Then when the police captured this fellow, this girl was not with him. He told that I handed over this girl to his friends. When these friends were asked, they are telling that they also left her. Then the police could find out her from some place, and they could hand her back to her parents. Right. So these types of incidents, lot many incidents were there, and along with that, actually, suppose if it was a present discontent, why they should insist for mass conversions?
Right.
In every incident, this is a undeniable fact. Right. They try to convert Hindus to Islam irrespective of their caste. It was not that their discontent was only to an upper caste people or anything like that. Right. Of any stature, they tried to convert. Right. If they were not getting converted, they were killed. Right. So this is what actually happened. Right. So if it is a present discontent, it might not have happened. The second thing is that actually why they have destroyed the temples and desecrated the places of worship. Right. If that was a simple present discontent or freedom struggle, it would not have happened.
Right, right.
So all these things logically we can rebut this theory in this way.
With that, we finally come to the end of this conversation, and I think it was a very detailed, factual and logical narration that was there from your side. I myself believe that there are various incidents in the modern history which have not received equal representation from all sides, or all perception, I would say, and hence it's very important for us to note down or pen down how history took place, or how incidents took place in the past, so that future generation could actually understand how the evolution of India took place. I once again would like to request all my viewers to definitely go and read this analytical book. I would definitely recommend this book to have a read, and you all should buy it. And as mentioned earlier, I've mentioned the link in the description below. I once again thank you so much, sir, for giving your time. And I really hope to all my viewers to please like, subscribe the channel, and more important, please express your opinions in the comment section below. Thank you.